Hey guys!
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Berry Share, and it's Thursday night, 9 o'clock, one of our favorite times of the week, and we are excited tonight.
Yeah, we are. It's episode 6 of Berry Share. We are in a conflict management series, and we just got off vacation, so we're rip-roaring ready to go.
That's right.
Thank you guys so much for giving us the week off. I know all of y'all were really sad that we weren't there, but
Fix your hair.
thank you, baby. Thank you. Look what a little vacation does for us. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying?
Hey, I have coffee, so feel free to get yourself something. Pull it up. We're going to be with you
get
for
some
the next
popcorn.
30, 40 minutes, and we're going to dive in on some pretty meaty stuff tonight. We're going to be talking about forgiveness.
Yeah, we are. So, but before we get into that, I just want to kind of give a little bit of an update of what's going on with us.
Yeah.
So, August 7th was our last Sunday at our
Right.
church.
Yep.
And it was a bittersweet ending. Definitely very much bitter and very much sweet. I mean, it was just one of those things that...
We handed it off. We have, I think, some of the most precious people on the planet that are part of this church that the Lord allowed us to come and start from scratch. 5 years ago, and God was definitely made it clear in His leading that it was time for our seasons to shift, and then He brought the perfect replacements for us in Pastors Darren and Sarah Bunch, and so we're excited about what God's going to do there in this next season, and we're also excited about our next season.
Yeah, we've got a new season coming up, so you're going to be starting a company. Well, you just started it.
I just started. I'm officially. Y'all pray for me. I am officially a small business owner.
Yeah.
And so got the LLC paperwork back from the state of North Carolina. What?
Proud of you.
Turkey. You know how to do that?
Turkey.
That's it. In case you need to hang out and make corny jokes with middle schoolers, that's a good joke.
Yeah. Left me hanging. Anyway, so that's what you're doing, and it's so you're gonna be consulting with churches and nonprofits, businesses.
Right. And so I am one of the nonprofits that I'm going to be working with is Proverbs 226, which is the prison ministry that we had mentioned before, and so I am going to be working with them. But also I'm working with a couple of business clients and a couple of church clients,
awesome,
and so I'm just excited, and be able to just be on multiple championship teams that are advancing the kingdom in various realms, and I'm going to get to be me, nerdy, strategy,
Love
visionary, teamwork, contagious passion, Brandon Berry.
You're getting ready to soar, man. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited
really
to be on the journey with you.
Yeah.
It's good. So, anyway, so that was what we're doing now. In between those two things, we took a little vacation to Charleston, South Carolina. Gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely love that place. We had a wonderful time down there with our family, with our framily, which are friends who kind of feel like family. Framily. And
is that kind of like Brangelina?
it's like Brangelina, yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking when I thought of family.
Okay.
So,
did you make that up like Al Gore made up the internet?
Yes, I did. I made that up, and I'm just going to put my copyright on family. You can just go ahead and say it's mine. But
okay.
It's not.
What
really.
are we talking about?
No, but before, I just wanted to say, on vacation, I did want to tell you, so we're talking about forgiveness, and how many of you know that vacations can stir up a lot of junk? I mean, I think we had some serious conflict management stuff going on before the vacation came on, with some of the stuff that you had piled on our plate. Trying to put kids, pack kids and yourself and your husband and everybody for a beach trip out of town for multiple nights. It can get super stressful. Yeah. I felt like we handled it pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too. I did a horrible job at communicating. I decided to do we got to baptize people on the last Sunday, and so it was awesome. We baptized like 15 people, but we also I volunteered myself to fix the broken caster wheels on the bottom of the baptismal tank. Neglected to tell my wife. Had them drop the tank off at the house, and invited like 2 guys over to help me fix it.
Yeah.
And,
it took you like 2 days.
And it took me way
awesome.
way too long.
So
And
I pulled in from our last day at church to the driveway, like, and there's a baptismal in my driveway. Like, it's not over. It's never gonna end. Anyway, that was.
Are there any, like, somebody's got my back here?
Somebody, yeah. What's up, Patrick? How you doing?
What's up, P-Fig?
So, anyway, but yeah. During the vacation, we had a few opportunities for conflict management.
Oh, yeah.
One of our children actually gave the other one an opportunity to have a near-death experience. And that same child gave herself the opportunity to have a near-death experience while we were gone. She was just 0 for 2, but wow. And then we're going to get into this a little bit and use it as just a good example of after. I'll tell you a little bit about the near-death experience. So we were
don't be vague.
We were on Isle of Palms, and if you've ever been to Isle of Palms, you go through this little S-curve, and then you go straight down this long 2-lane road, and people can park on either side of the 2-lane road, and of course on one side is the beach, and you got to find a beach access point. You can't just go through people's yards, although we've done that probably in the past, but the beach access point. So we'd parked, and Brandon and I were sitting in the front seat. The girls were super excited, and we were just getting our stuff together and putting our phones in Ziploc bags so they didn't get sandy and stuff. And then all of a sudden, one of our children took the baby out of her car seat, like unbuckled her, and then opened the van door.
On the roadside.
Onto the roadside where traffic is just going, and it's like 45 miles an hour, and these people are just flying back and forth. So I look over Brandon's shoulder, he was in the driver's seat, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And he had to like jump out and grab the baby before she jumped into traffic. It was absolutely horrific. I came that close from saying really bad words. But Jesus held my tongue, so that was good. And anyway, so after we got everybody out of the car safely, and we were like another block or 2 away from the access point at that point, and so we were walking. And how many of you know, like, beach trips are really awesome when you're sitting on the beach, but the walk to the beach and the walk especially after the beach back to the car is just like, it's like a whole nother level of hell on earth, I think, to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, don't enjoy it. So anyway, we were walking around these cars and stuff, trying to not let the kids be on the street. And Brandon sees a parking space right near the beach access point that opened up. So he's like, hey, babe, I'm going to run back and go get the car and bring it this way so that we don't have to walk all the way back when we're done with the beach. So you go ahead. And so I took the girls. We found ourselves a spot, and he came back behind us. So anyway, after the beach was done, and we're all sandy, hot, we were sunburned, we were exhausted, everybody's cranky. We get out to the van, and I go around to the side of the driver's side, and there is a parking ticket stuck.
$50 parking ticket.
We gave a $50 donation to the Isle of Palms.
That's right.
And I looked up, I'm like, why is there a parking ticket on our car? And I look up, and there is a no parking sign, and our car is like that much past the no parking. So it's like no parking from here that way. And our car is like that much past the no parking sign. So we got a $50 ticket.
Yeah.
And we're going to use this example for showing you guys a little bit about forgiveness, because we were both steaming at that. You were mad at the parking guy.
Not so much the parking guy as much as, well, I thought he would give me the benefit of the doubt, because it was 85% of the car was on the right side of the sign.
Yeah.
But if you're being a stickler, you know, I broke the law, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and so I was more
Patrick
mad.
says he got one there too.
Oh,
see,
for
you
real?
understand? They're not cheap over there. That's how Isle of Palms gets all their money, I'm sure.
Oh man. So, but I was really just mad at myself. I was having a hard time.
Yeah.
You know, really forgiving myself, because I actually passed a police truck. I'm walking, and the police truck is coming off the beach, and is coming this way, and I even had the thought, oh, should I go back or should I walk back there and ask them if that's okay? And I was just like, nah, they'll let it slide.
Oh my goodness.
They didn't let it slide.
So I was definitely dealing with some issues there, like golly, but we're gonna get into more of that. So
Sure.
that's our little example for you guys. I just wanted you to keep that in your mind as we start talking about it. You'll understand kind of the backstory to it. So, babe, in the last episode, we talked about conflict management.
Right.
And we started off our series about conflict management, and basically we just said 3 major points about that. One, you are absolutely 100% guaranteed to be offended at some point in your life. Every single person from top to bottom is going to get offended.
Conflict's inevitable.
Conflict is
so
absolutely inevitable.
We need to learn to have the skills, especially in marriage, how to fight fair. Yeah. And so, learning how to forgive is a huge part.
Right.
And so a lot of people, when we think about forgiveness, a lot of people practice what I would call pseudo forgiveness.
Right.
Where they're not really letting it go. And a lot of people don't even know what true forgiveness is. So we're going to define really what forgiveness is. And then we're actually going to unpack for you the process that you can go through to forgive someone from the heart. And they'll feel it and you'll feel it.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, just sorry I kind of like inserted in there. But last week, just to recap really quick, we talked about conflict is inevitable. We also said that it's an opportunity for unity.
Yeah.
And that's where we talked about the first of the Ken Sand from his book, The Peacemaker. The first of his 4 G's was that you got to remember that about peacemaking. The impetus for actually doing the hard work of peacemaking is that you got to remember that it's all about glorifying God.
Yeah.
That it's an opportunity for unity. It's an opportunity, if we're able to actually love each other through the conflict, it's an opportunity for us to get better at communicating with one another. It's an opportunity to actually speak life to one another, encourage one another,
right.
And maybe make up afterwards.
Hey.
Let's
have a fight.
That's right. And then the third part was we just gave some real practical advice about hot buttons,
right.
about avoiding hot buttons, about giving grace to each other, about each other's hot buttons.
And we said that hot buttons are places or wounds that have not been healed yet. And
right.
so you will notice what your hot buttons are because you will find yourselves overreacting.
Right. So if you'd like some more about that, I mean, just you can click and find episode 5,
Episode
I believe.
5, yeah.
Which is
either on our
that.
Facebook
But
page or on our
without any
YouTube
further
page.
ado, why don't we talk about forgiveness?
Let's talk about forgiveness.
So,
let's do it.
Forgive. What does it mean to forgive? It's more than just saying, I'm sorry. But it actually means that you are letting go of something. And so let's say that this coffee cup represents, for me, I was mad at myself. For Nicole, let's say that this coffee cup represents her. She's mad at me for getting the ticket.
Right.
Okay. And so this is her offense towards me, and so she's holding it. Oh, nice. Okay. Is it good?
No, it's bitter.
It's bitter. It's a bitter cup of offense. That was smart. Okay. So if Nicole is not to forgive somebody to forgive means to let go. Nicole can't let go of this cup unless she's holding the full weight of it in her hands.
Right. And
so we can't practice forgiveness unless we are really emotionally feeling the full weight of it.
Sweeping it under the rug or putting it on the table
right.
is not equivalent to forgiveness.
So if I was to say, hey babe, are we going to be able to get past this? And you were able to, and you just kept it up here on the shelf, and you were like, yeah, I forgive you.
Right.
But she didn't actually let go of her anger, her sadness is, man, I could have spent that $50 a whole lot. You know,
I would love to have gotten a pedicure.
Look at you. Priorities, right? And
I mean, I would have loved to have.
yeah, don't make something up. And so, unless she's actually feeling that anger, that sadness, that loss, and then she can't really let it go. And she can say, "I forgive you," but if she's just sweeping that under the rug and that's not legitimate, that's not genuine, then it's, I'll be able to feel that, she'll be able to feel that, and forgiveness will have not really happened. You might have said the words, but forgiveness didn't really happen.
Yeah. I mean, I would say too, the highest form of forgiveness is to be able to forgive, to be able to just let it go, to be able to there are some things that you can just let it go. Someone steps on your toe, you don't have to go through a whole process of forgiveness.
Or reconciliation. You don't have to go through a whole peacemaking process where you call them and tell them how what they did made you feel. What you're talking about is in Proverbs 17, where it says it's to a king's glory to overlook an offense. Right. And so actually step one in peacemaking is to try to overlook it. To try to actually forgive the person without having to actually hash it out.
Yeah. I mean, really, you have to kind of pick your battles. Like, is that something that I can just, okay, Brandon obviously didn't mean to, didn't maliciously get us a $50 parking ticket. Can I just let it go?
Right.
But if it was something that was like habitual, you never, or not never, but if you oftentimes found us with parking tickets on our windshield,
right,
then that would be a harder process to forgive you. But in this situation, thankfully, I was able to be like, man, that was a bad mistake. Unlucky break there. We'll be all right. We've got a vacation budget that we can handle. We'll have to take care of it.
We'll have to eat sandwiches. Instead of going out to lunch.
Right. So not that big of a deal. But
let's talk about the 4 promises of forgiveness.
Right. Okay.
Which this is huge, and I didn't know forgiveness was this serious, y'all. I used to think it was. I heard, I think I even heard sermons or heard somebody say when I was a kid, you have to forgive. Forgiveness is a mandate, and you have to forgive, and you have to force yourself to forgive, and the whole don't go to bed angry, that you had to force yourself to say I forgive you or something before you go to bed, and let me tell you, if it's not real, you'll know it, they'll know it.
We see that in our kids all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if one of them does something to the other, we're trying to teach them this process, but they still just use it as a checklist. I'm sorry, will you please forgive me? They don't really even care. Right. They just stole their sister's sandwich. No, I'm not sorry that I just stole your drink. Yeah. It was good.
So you actually... So what are the 4 promises of forgiveness? Let's unpack that.
Yep. So the first promise of forgiveness, this is how you know that you've really forgiven somebody. If you're able to do these 4 things, then you can feel yes, I have forgiven. And next we're going to go through the process. But first we want to talk about the promises of forgiveness. So the 4 promises are, number 1, I will not dwell on this incident. In the parking example, I could get really upset and spend the whole rest of our vacation just, golly, I could have done something else with that $50. It would have been so nice. I could have just, just been upset and bitter and angry when I go to pay it, just being just really rough on it. But because I was able to forgive him, it was a done deal. It hurt a little bit when we paid it the next morning, but it was done. Then we didn't have to worry about it anymore. Right. Number 2 is I'm not going to bring this incident up again and use it against you. And so let's say a few weeks from now, we're looking at our budget, and man, we have gone over budget. Now, if I have not forgiven Brandon, it would be it would sound something like this. Well, I mean, if you hadn't parked the car on the other side of the no parking sign, then we wouldn't be over budget here. Now, that may or may not even be true. There's many, many times where we go over budget, and it's really because I've gone over budget because I do most of the shopping for our family. But if I were to bring it back up, if you start bringing those things back
with
up,
that tone,
right? Yeah.
Right, then I would feel the sting of the fact that, wow, I thought she forgave me, but she really didn't.
Obviously, she didn't.
Yeah.
So, so that was number 2. Don't bring it up and use it against them. Number 3, I'm not going to talk to others about this. And so, I'm not going to go and tell all my friends on Facebook Live that my husband got a parking ticket.
So this is an exception.
We're using this as an example, but this is not something.
I would say I won't talk to others about this without their permission.
Without the person's permission.
Right. Because obviously we talked about this.
Right.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
But this is really a good time. Let's insert a really good definition of gossip. Do you know what gossip is? Have you ever heard a sermon defining what gossip is? Rare. It's because most prayer request sessions actually are gossip. And so, and sometimes the folks in the church are the worst at gossip. Let me give you a good definition for gossip. Gossip is talking about the problem with anyone who is not either a part of the problem or a part of its solution.
That's good.
Okay, so if Nicole's got a beef with me, then obviously talking to me about it is not gossip.
Right.
Okay. Who else could she talk to? Let's say she talks to me about it, and I just blow her off, and she's still ticked off, and she's just like, man, he didn't get it, and well, at that point, that's an opportunity to practice the rest of some peacemaking. We'll unpack this in another episode with Matthew 18, and you could go get a mediator and come back.
Right.
You may even talk to a safe place person and get some wisdom on how should I approach Brandon about this. And if you're going to talk to somebody to get some wisdom on how you could do some peacemaking, then that is, they are now a part of the solution.
Right.
Okay. But they need to be tight-lipped. They don't need.
Right. Choose those people wisely, please.
Right. So they're going to actually give you wise advice, and they're going to be a pit stop on the way to you practicing forgiveness and reconciliation.
Yep, that's good. So don't gossip about it.
Right. And the fourth one.
And the fourth one is, I will not let this incident stand between us or hinder our personal relationship. And so that's just something that, it's so easy to let things just continue to build up and really putting stones in my heart towards you based on that incident. And the problem with that is as those stones pile up, if I keep holding on to these things and let them stand in between us, I'm doing it normally because I don't want to get hurt again.
Right.
But what happens is not only am I trying to keep you out with these different stones, but I'm keeping myself in prison.
Right.
And so this incident is something that we would just not want to continue to just let it be between us. And really you have to work through the forgiveness process in order to be able to get to that fourth one, because really to get to any of the promises.
Yeah.
But
so this is kind of saying, okay, that's what it means to truly forgive, and that's kind of weighty, and a lot of times, I bet you could think of some times, please don't post these in the comments, but you could probably think of some times where you've said, I forgive you, but if you're really to do some investigation in your heart, you can say, you know what, I have dwelt on that. After I said I forgive you, and I
keep thinking about it.
I brought it up again, and I used it against them in an argument again, or I talked about it to my coworker, or my mom,
Yeah, wives, going and telling your mom or your daddy all of your marital problems is not a good way towards forgiveness. That's definitely showing you that you have not forgiven your husband. If you keep going back to mama and telling and saying like all the bad things that he's done, it's just that's one of the hardest things I would say for women.
Right.
Women, number 3, that third one, I'm not going to talk to others about this incident. I'm not going to gossip about it. I know for me personally, I'll just be completely honest here, like that was my hardest one. is that I feel justified in sharing what other people have done to hurt me to safe people that I deem safe, who could be my friends or mentors or whomever. It could be just a random acquaintance, and maybe I just have a throw up of words here, but I think women especially, that is one of our, and women, press a 1 or give me a shout out if you agree that for women, not talking about the problem, not talking about the offense, not talking about the person who's offended you to other people is truly the hardest part of really saying I've forgiven somebody.
Yeah, and I think that's indicative of the fact that you haven't really forgiven.
Right.
And so, which kind of leads us to the next part, which is you can't do any of those promises really well. I mean, you can try to white knuckle it and try to make yourself be good, but you can't really from the heart live out those promises unless you go through the process.
You got to go through the process.
So let's unpack the process of forgiveness. And so, we're going to give credit where it's due here. This is totally stealing.
We're not stealing it. We're promoting.
Sorry.
Someone else's thoughts.
With her permission. Denise Boggs, who is a friend of ours, ministry partner. We actually serve on their board up at Living Waters Ministry, which is a inner healing retreat center up in Statesville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And man, it's
brilliant downloads from the Lord.
Yeah, she gets downloads from the Lord. She's a licensed counselor and
anointed, totally.
I mean, it's a place of healing. And if you feel like you're in a place to where you've got some unforgiveness, you've got some hurt, you've got some soul spirit hurt, you feel like there's some relational walls that have developed between you and your spouse, or you just need some help dealing with some things, then we've gone up. She's basically been our counselor and helped us work through some things. And this process, y'all, I could show you journal page after journal page, napkin after napkin. I have drawn this diagram on so many sheets of paper that I have sat down as a pastor and I've counseled with, because hardly anybody I'm finding really knows how to forgive, really knows how to let something go from the heart. And so we're going to give it to you right here.
Right here.
So, honey, why don't you hold that up and show them that diagram. And so let's unpack this a little.
All right.
Okay, so the first step that we have is right here. It's the shock. And so whenever something happens, let's say that Nicole, let's just, for hyperbole, let's say I stab Nicole in the kidney. Okay?
Ouch.
What's going to happen here is she's going to go into shock. Okay?
Right. I can't believe you just did that to me.
Right. So there's going to be, your body is naturally going to numb the pain.
Right.
Okay? And you may knock out, whatever. But during the shock phase, it's all about numbing the pain. And so there is a period where whenever there's an offense, whenever there's a conflict, there's kind of an initial numbness. Whenever someone passes away, there's a numbness that can happen, especially around the funeral. I mean, some people don't even have that much emotion just because they just feel numb.
Right.
But once the numbness, that kind of wears off, then the next step is it goes to anger. Mm-hmm. And so
I'm mad at you that you just stabbed me in the kidney.
Right.
I'm extremely mad.
Right. And so we can say this, lower this just a smidge. The anger is threefold usually. And so if you're taking notes, you may need to remember this, that your anger usually is directed towards the person that hurt you. Okay, so she'd be mad at me for stabbing her in the kidney. Mm-hmm. She's mad at herself for not seeing it coming. Be like, I should have known that dirty rat.
He's going to stab me in that kidney. believe him.
Or man, I should have judo chopped him and blocked that.
Yes. I should have used my judo chopping skills.
Kind of like me, I was beating myself up for the ticket. I should have done da 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 da, right?
Yeah.
And then the third part is if we're real, then there's a lot of times there's some anger at the Lord. Mm-hmm. You're actually angry at God because God is sovereign, and ultimately He allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
And so there's a sense in which if we're going to truly forgive, we've got to forgive the other person, we've got to forgive ourselves, and we've got to forgive God.
Right.
And let me just say this. So, in case there are some remaining religiosity in any of our audience, mm-hmm. God can handle your anger.
Yeah.
Like God can just read the Psalms. David is like railing again. He's like, God, will you please just strike these idiots with lightning here? I mean, he was wanting his enemies to pay, and you know what? God could handle his anger. Right. He could handle that kind of authenticity. And so the second step of grieving a loss, mm-hmm. of moving towards forgiveness, is dealing with your own anger. Okay? The third step is sadness.
Right.
Honey, you want to speak to sadness a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, sadness is the emotion that people do not want to feel. Shock, we can handle.
Yeah.
Anger, a lot of people can handle their anger.
Right.
But when you get to sadness, people don't know what to do with that. When you
right.
really, truly feel the sadness. And so what happens here is when we go from anger to sadness, mm-hmm. People do not want to feel the sadness. Right. Whoa, that feels too heavy. That's too much. I do not want to deal with that. So I'm going to drink alcohol to numb my pain again. I'm going to do drugs. I'm going to get involved in a sexual addiction. I'm going to overeat. Right. I'm going to do things, anything, so that I don't have to feel this anymore, because this really, really stinks right here, this sadness. So what happens is, as soon as we get to here and we start not really going through the sadness, but trying to mask it, then it takes us all the way back up to anger. Because
all the way up to shock, because shock is the numbing of the pain. Okay,
so we're getting all the way up to shock,
right?
And then you feel it all over again. I can't believe you just stabbed me in the kidney.
Yeah. So when the alcohol, when the high, when the
whatever it is,
when the binge on pornography, when whatever happens and that numbness wears off, then guess what? You didn't actually fix anything.
No, you just masked it, and you just gave yourself one more lap around that mountain.
Right. And so then you're gonna progress down. You're gonna be angry again at yourself, mm-hmm. at them, at God. Then you're gonna feel sad again. And most people, guess what they do? They take another Ambien. Mm-hmm. They take another hit. They get deeper into addiction. And this right here, moving from shock to anger to sadness, and back up right there, that circle is called the addiction cycle. And I remember just getting chills, and when Denise Boggs looked at us and said, Brandon and Nicole, like, every addiction on planet Earth is right there.
Right there.
So if you know people that are addicted to
anything,
I'm telling you, it's because they're hurt.
They could be addicted to Netflix. They could be addicted to social media. It could be you sitting right there addicted. It could be me. It could be us.
Right.
We're all addicted to something because we don't want to feel the sadness of whatever it is that we've lost.
Right.
And so, when we're talking about forgiveness here, we're really talking about grieving losses, because every offense that we receive, it could be your father told you never amount to anything. And he told you that 1,000 times when you were a kid, in 1,000 different ways, and he showed you that. And now you're an adult, and you can't seem to get your life together. And so you deal with shock and anger and sadness, and then you see yourself in this cycle of addiction. And really, what is happening here is that you have to grieve the loss of what you lost when your father didn't give you the affirmation that you needed as a child.
That's right.
And so that's really when you go down to the fourth one. It's like, why? What does this mean for me?
Right.
This loss, whether it's the example I just gave, for the kidney stabbing example.
Yeah, if I stabbed you in the kidney, like, it's not like you can just say, I forgive you, and it's over. It's
Right.
like, no, she might have to get a kidney transplant.
Yeah, I mean, doctor's bills and time away from work, and now I don't trust you, and now I don't know if I can trust anybody. If I can't trust you, who can I trust?
Right.
And
the next person who is holding a knife in a kitchen to cut a tomato, are they going to stab me in the kitchen?
In the
kidney? I mean, but seriously.
That's a weird example.
Why?
I mean,
Oh.
I guess people have been stabbed.
Well, no, but I mean, that's that whole thing about, an overreaction is an indication that there's an unhealed hurt.
Right.
Because sometimes you know what I'm saying? Have you ever been around a dog that's been kicked a lot and
then you go to pet it and it's
and it's I mean, like, you have like you're raising your hand. We've got some friends that are hilarious. Smitty. Yeah.
Don't say it.
Well, I'm not saying which Smitty, but there's a friend that I call Smitty, that whenever his wife like raises her hand or whatever, and he's in
to do anything, or when she just gets like
she gets riled up.
She is riled up.
Then he'll just be like.
Horrible.
So he's pretending
it's
like
funny.
he's got this issue. It's really funny. But like a dog that's been kicked, if somebody raises their hand, like you may just be raising your hand to scratch your head, but that dog is overreacting because there's an unhealed hurt.
So facing the loss, and this is the part where it takes work. It takes work to face the loss, because really what you have to do is go through everything. What does it really mean to face the loss? And so maybe you've been cheated on by your spouse. Perhaps you've been let go from a job and they just fired you for no reason that you could think of. Or maybe they laid you off or something, and now you have to feel the loss. What does that mean financially? What does that mean for your family? What does that mean for the vacation that you had planned in September? What does that mean for your next job? Are you going to be able to really feel comfortable and safe in a job? Do you feel like, these are all things that you have to actually go through and think of all, and that takes time. And it takes energy. It takes mind space to be able to go through. I was talking to somebody who was just saying how loved they felt at our church under our leadership, and I was just like, wow, thank you so much for saying that. And then she was just sharing a little bit about just past hurt, church hurt, and I just said, have you ever really forgiven your pastors, your former pastors, for what they did, and do you even really know what you're trying to forgive them for?
Right.
It's not just because I'm church hurt.
Right.
That's sweeping it under the rug. What we're saying here is you have to really and truly figure out, what does that mean for you.
So what did this look like for us? So Nicole and I, we've gone up to Living Waters. We've been walked through this process, and we got to a place to where they were like, okay, you need to process this. And so here's a pen, here's a paper, and write a letter. And if it's your dad who offended you, then just write, Dear Dad. It really hurt when you weren't there for my football games or whatever. That's totally not my story. But I mean, whatever it was, you just write it out. And it cost me this, and it made me feel this way, and
now I'm struggling to
whatever.
Do whatever. Now I don't even feel like I need to go to my Max. Now I don't feel like I go to my kids' games, and I'm really able to support my kids because judgments that I've made against you that are really coming back. And
so you have to write and write and write and write and write and usually those pages are stained with some tears.
And you don't necessarily have to send those letters to the people.
No,
I would probably recommend not. doing that. But it's really for you.
But it's just
the
getting it out.
process for
Right.
you is to be able to really and truly feel that loss. And so once you do that, and you really spend that time, that energy to face the loss, then you get to the bottom part here, which is forgiveness. And that is when, where's your cup?
Oh, it's right here.
That is when you're facing the loss, you're feeling
Right. You're writing those letters, you're actually feeling the weight of what's happened.
the full weight of what has happened to you. And then when you forgive is when you truly are able to let it go. So you put it away, you let it go. It's no longer in your hands.
It's no longer
on your shoulders. It's no longer, you're not dwelling on it, like the promise said. And so then after you're able to do that, you're going to have a few opportunities to continue to release that, because what's going to happen is you're going to get into a situation, and let's say we're going to go back to the stabbing kidney example. So I've finally gotten to the point where I faced the loss. I've been able to forgive Brandon for stabbing me in that kidney. I got myself a new kidney, and now my new kidney is not working correctly.
Right.
Okay, and so I'm going to have an opportunity to pick that back up. My old kidney worked fine. Why do I have to deal with this now again with my new kidney?
Yeah.
And so you're going to have an opportunity to go back through, and you're going to have to face more loss and then go back and forgive and release.
In essence, each one of these, this release, this more release, it's the same offense representing itself.
It could look a little bit different.
And it may look a little bit different. It'd be maybe a different facet of what it cost you that you didn't necessarily write down in the letter when you were facing the loss. And so you may have to go through this entire process again, where you're having to deal with your anger, deal with your sadness, write it out, and then come to a place. And I think this is important to really unpack. And for me, this was huge. Like, how do I actually forgive you? Okay. And ultimately, we forgive because we have been forgiven.
Right.
And I know Denise Boggs actually put it this way. It helps to picture yourself in a courtroom. And a lot of us are in the wrong seat. We're in the judgment seat. And we're wanting the person who hurt us to pay. And we want them to be locked up in a prison of unforgiveness. And so we have to climb down out of that judgment seat and then stand on the courtroom floor. And we have to stand beside the one we're accusing. And then God asks us some really difficult questions. He looks to his right, and we see Jesus, and we see his nail-scarred hands. We see his crown of thorns, and we see that he bled and died for us. And he asks us the first question, which is, Brandon, is what Jesus did enough for you to be forgiven for all that you've done wrong? And hallelujah, the answer is yes. Even before that, he might even ask the question, are you guilty? Have you messed up? And that answer is definitely yes. But is what Jesus did, is that enough to pay the price for all that I've done wrong? Well, hallelujah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. The wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. And so he paid the price. The debt is no more. And so then he asks a more difficult question, which is, let's say Nicole, hurt me and says, and let's say I'm accusing her, okay? And I want her to pay because I'm mad for whatever. Then he says, okay, is what Jesus did enough to forgive her of everything she's done wrong, including what she did wrong to you? And that's a little bit harder to say yes to, but it's true.
It is.
Because Jesus didn't just die for me.
Right.
He died for you.
That's right.
And so God is basically saying, so I've forgiven you, and I've forgiven her because of what Jesus has done. And now he asks the hardest question. which is, since you've been forgiven so much, can you forgive her? And that is where I think the miracle of forgiveness can happen. And I think it's really a miracle, because only when in the presence of the Holy Spirit, only recognizing the power of the gospel, because the debt has been paid. You know, I don't know if people in other religions can figure out some way to forgive somebody from the heart. But because I don't know how else the debt is paid without the sacrifice of Jesus.
Right.
But I know we, as Christ followers, we know that Jesus paid the price.
Right.
And through what he did, the price has been paid. And so it's in that moment when we can truly say, you know what, I've been forgiven much, and I can forgive much.
Right.
And that's huge. And I just feel like that was for somebody that's watching, maybe watching live, maybe watching this later on, maybe watching it on YouTube. And you need to walk through that process and hear those questions that I just said as coming from the Lord.
Yeah. So basically, can I go on?
Yeah, we're done.
So I would just say, you are going to have many opportunities to continue to have the opportunity to pick up that offense back up. And then you're going to have to release it again. And sometimes you're going to have to go back through the facing the losses and just say, wow, I didn't even realize that loss too when I wrote all those letters out. Right. And so you might need to write another letter out or another paragraph to the letter. And there will come a time, though, if you continue to go through the process, if you choose to be brave enough to walk through the process, that you will get to a final release where you give it away, you give it up, and you're able to forgive again, and it's not going to come back at you.
Right. It'll literally be like the burden is gone.
Yeah.
You're complete. It's no longer a scab, it's a scar.
It's a scar. And that's when you have a new normal. And if you notice on this diagram, you start on this plane and you're ending on a higher plane. Yeah. Because after you've walked through this entire process, I really do believe that the Lord does just add to your character.
That's right.
He adds to your person, who you are, your experience, and you're on a whole new level. You
Right.
really are when you can walk through forgiveness.
And you're experiencing forgiven. You're experiencing freedom. Through the forgiveness, you have freedom.
Yeah.
I heard it saying this way, unforgiveness, like holding on to it, remaining that bitter, is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
That's good.
But when we actually release and just let it go, then we're actually getting the poison out of our own hearts. Right. And we can experience a freedom like we've never known before.
That's awesome.
And I got
You
chills
got
just saying
Look
that.
at you.
And I just want that freedom to be on all of us.
Right.
And honey, I just feel led. I'd like to just pray.
All right,
to close
let's do
this
it.
one out.
Sure.
God, I just thank you for what you're doing in all of our hearts. And God, I thank you for the miracle of forgiveness. Thank you for paying the price. And God, I pray that right now, for whoever's watching this, that you would give supernatural grace to forgive.
Yes,
Give them the courage to walk through this process, to acknowledge the anger and the sadness, to face the loss, and God, to climb on off of that judgment seat, to stand at the foot of the cross where the ground is level.
Yes, Lord.
And Lord, to grant forgiveness to those that have hurt us. God, I pray for that. I pray for supernatural grace to forgive. And Lord, I pray that we would be known as people that forgive each other. And God, may the world know that we are your disciples because of our love for one another. Because we're not holding on to unforgiveness, because we've let it go. And Lord, may we shine as we live in that freedom. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Yeah.
We are so glad to have you, and be sure to check in with us next Thursday at 9 o'clock right here on Facebook Live on our Berry Share page. We've got a lot more stuff coming up to you on conflict management.
That's right.
And also this forgiveness part is part of conflict management. Obviously, we wanted to go through forgiveness now because we just felt like it was such an integral part of knowing what forgiveness is and how to forgive.
Right.
So when we start talking about the rest of conflict management,
Right.
you already have this locked and loaded. So
That's right.
thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
All right.
Bye.